A very good afternoon, everyone. So, there are two topics that I'll be discussing today. First, I'll be talking about a topic maritime security, and obviously, because you're already are appearing for interviews, so I have some issues that I'll be discussing, and I will be also talking about some current events that has happened, primarily in maritime security, the events that have happened post 26/11. Those are the most important ones. So there are certain changes that have come up. What are those changes? You should know about that. We'll be discussing that. Okay. Now, see, first of all, whenever we talk about the very concept of maritime security, when we are discussing the topic maritime security, obviously there are some basic things that we will be talking about, starting with why is maritime security important for India? Okay. You can expect very simple questions from this very topic. It's not that there will be a lot of complications here. You are very likely to be asked either the importance of maritime security. You can expect a question on problems, that is, what are the problems, and specifically the problems that are there with current context. Because if you are answering a question there, uh, and the question is on suppose problems, and they have asked you a question on problems, and suppose the board has repeated that question from for a number of candidates, so they expect that you would be, when you are answering that question, you will bring about some different perspectives to your answers. And if you just, if you just give an answer which is a repetitive answer from that of other candidates, it's not that you will not be marked, you will not be given marks, but there is no, there is a lot of potential with respect to this question. There are a lot of things that you can bring about and you can answer this question. Okay. So the problems that is there specifically in current context, that is one thing that you will have to, you are likely to be asked. And thirdly, there may be a question that you get on what are the specific current developments that have happened. And when I say current developments, I do not mean the most recent ones only. I mean, what are the developments that have happened after 26/11? The, no, the Mumbai attacks, what happened? No, what were the developments that happened after that? Clear? So these are the 2-3 questions that you can expect out of this. Okay. And remember that you will not get a lot of opportunity to answer it in a very detailed manner. Okay? Because it's very likely that while you are answering that question, you get a follow-up question. You get a follow-up question which may be related to that, but it may be very different from the original question. It may be related to it, but very different. So when you are preparing for this, when you are preparing this, you don't need to get into a lot of details about it. Okay. Just have a good understanding of the issue and accordingly focus on, no, don't focus on how well you are framing your sentences. Try and focus on what are the specific, what are the specific points that you could include in your answer. Clear? Okay. Let's, no, let's discuss this idea. And to understand the importance of it, if we look at this map, so obviously we can point out that India has a very, large maritime boundaries. Clear? So if you see other countries and the maritime security with respect to other countries, how is India different? Because India has one of the largest maritime borders in comparison to any other country. India has, a very large maritime boundary. India has a very large maritime boundary. It's approximately more than 7,000 kilometers. You know that. So I'll not be repeating that. Okay. That's one issue that is there. Now, along with this, see, when we talk about the maritime region of India, you have to also look at the extended neighborhood of India, because maritime security of India, one of the major problems that is there is you have to look at the neighborhood, that is the maritime neighborhood of India. So in that context, first thing is that right now in contemporary time, you have to understand the importance of this region. You have to understand the importance of this particular region. So what is this? If we are talking about the current context, so why is this region, that is extended neighborhood, going up to the Middle Eastern region? So why is that important as of now? Specifically related to maritime security. Yes? Chabahar port is there. Huh? Piracy is there. Okay. So piracy is definitely one of the issues. Piracy is definitely one of the issues, because if you look at this region borders what we call as the Gulf of Eden. And that's one of the highly piracy infested area. Yes, that is there. But I did not ask you that. What I asked you is that if you look at the current context, so in current times, is there something going on in this region? Yes, but that is way, way inside the region. Okay, this region, that is no Yemen, and here is where you see the Houthis that are there, which are located. Okay, and this has been one of the primary targets of the United States of America after Donald Trump has come to power. ठीक है, लेकिन ये मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी से, इंडियन मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी से क्यों रिलेटेड? दैट्स द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट आइडिया, because it points out to a very important problem. The problem is that when it comes to India's maritime security, one problem that we tend to face is the problem that our extended neighborhood, specifically our maritime neighborhood that is there, they are not, no, there there is lack of political stability. There is what? There is a lack of political stability. And this lack of political stability becomes important. This lack of political stability that we see in our extended neighborhood, this is very important. You know why? Because this political instability results into what we very much know as illegal migration. Illegal migration, because when any country is politically unstable, so potentially there are two dangers there. First of all, the danger of illegal migration. Now, illegal migration will happen because of two reasons. है ना? Illegal migration, this would result into illegal migration. And illegal migration will be because of two reasons. First is, there will obviously be a problem because those who are, no, who are those individuals who are associated with such organizations, they would try and escape the region, and they would try and find places where they can do what they can, as an organization, grow. So the possibility that there may be some organizations that may migrate from the Middle Eastern countries, which are, which are the, you can say they are the terrorist organizations, them and these individuals migrating into India. That is one problem that starts. And second is because there is illegal migration, there is, because of lack of political instability, there are problems with respect to economic opportunities. So people who are living in that region, they may not necessarily be associated with, such organizations, but they would migrate into countries like India, specifically countries like India. Why? Because India is right now, in terms of economic opportunities, it is a very, 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 it's a very, good region for that. So in search of economic opportunities, they may migrate just because there is lack of, opportunities. Why? Because there are problems related to political instability. Clear? So illegal migration for two reasons. First of all, terrorist organizations and individuals looking for hideouts and other places of operation. Other places of operation. And secondly, for economic opportunities. For economic opportunities. ठीक है? Remember this. So the post that you are appearing for, no, in your interviews, that is related primary to a security agency, but still your work, your answers would be always appreciated on the basis of how holistically you try to answer a particular question. So though this may not necessarily be directly, this may not be directly related to the problem of, no, directly a problem of security. However, no, most of you have prepared for civil services, so you know that when it comes to economics and economic opportunities, it has a wide scale ramification on the security of the country. So places that are generally backward are also the potential areas of, problems like secessionist movements, Naxalism, insurgency, and so on. Clear? So in this case, never forget to add this very idea. Okay? Now, this political instability is not just in the, in the western margins of India, okay, or the western neighborhood of India. This political instability can also be looked in the, no, in the eastern region. Why? You have right now Bangladesh, you have Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is again undergoing right now political instability. है ना? It's undergoing political instability. And not just Bangladesh, but also Myanmar. Why? Because in the last 3 years, Myanmar has been under, military rule, which is called as the junta rule there. है ना? So when there is, whenever there is a military rule, there is always violation of rights. And that does what? Again, that results into illegal migration. Okay. So whether it is, whether it is Bangladesh, whether it is Myanmar, that is, no, that is one thing that you have to add there as well. Okay. So that is the second point. Now come to the third point. When we talk about the third point, maritime security is also important for India, also because when we talk about India's offshore assets, there are a lot of offshore assets that India has in this very region. Okay. What do I mean when I say offshore assets? क्या कहने की कोशिश कर रहा हूं मैं? हाँ? What am I actually saying? क्या बोल रहा हूं मैं? Yes? क्या कह रहे हो? हाँ, okay. That is, one is obviously मिनरल्स, ठीक है, यस, रिफाइनरीज, यस, refineries are there, exactly. We have, no, we have defense and other scientific establishments also which are there. Okay, so defense and scientific establishments. Defense and scientific establishments. Now remember, whatever we are discussing, this is very unlikely that you get so much opportunity to answer all of this in such a holistic manner there, है ना? But as I said, one question, maybe 2-3 points, then a follow-up question, है ना? Then a follow-up question. So you have to be ready for that. That is the reason why I'm discussing all of it. Okay. Anything else? Exactly. One of the most important, no, one of the most important reasons for a robust maritime security order in India's neighborhood, specifically when it comes to the Indian Ocean region, is the economic importance of Indian Ocean region. Okay. So the economic importance. Indian Ocean region. The economic importance of Indian Ocean region. Okay. Now, in economic importance, we know that when it comes to by value and by volume, so 70% of trade by value and 90% of trade by volume takes place in this very region. है ना? It takes place in this very region. So that is one very important aspect. Anything else? Economic importance हो गया. Anything else? Suppose in your interview you get one question which is related to maritime security and maritime security with respect to the recent changes in India's neighborhood. Recent changes in India's neighborhood. So in that context, what can you add? There is influence of China in the region. So when it comes to recent changes, what you will do is there are two important points that you have to be very much aware of, which is the geopolitical hotspots. क्या कह सकते हो वहां पर? You can point out to the very fact that India right now is in a neighborhood which is a geopolitical hotspot. It's a geopolitical hotspot, and this also has two important bases for it. First is obviously China. So China and the Indo-Pacific. China and the Indo-Pacific. Clear? And secondly, a very important development which has happened, I hope you have read about it, which was the recent statement that was made by Muhammad Yunus. Do you know about the recent statement that he made? So what did he say? Yes, yes, he was, no, he was pointing out to the fact that India has the obviously northeastern states, and all the northeastern states, because they are landlocked, they are landlocked. So in a way he declared that Bangladesh is the sole supervisor of this particular region, and also urged, because he was on a visit to China, so there he also urged that China should grow its influence in Bangladesh, specifically when it comes to the economic influence that is there. It should grow, no, it should grow in this very region. Clear? So in that context, what you have to understand is that this region has become a geopolitical hotspot also because that there, has been a recent regime change in Bangladesh, and this regime change that is there has not been very friendly towards India. ठीक है? So a recent regime change. A recent regime change in Bangladesh that is there, that has also been one of the reasons. In fact, if you have read the newspaper in the last 2-3 days itself, you must have read about how India has reacted to it. In fact, there has also been a meeting between the Prime Minister and the Muhammad Yunus, who is the chief advisor right now in that very position. So he's leading a way, you can say he's leading the interim government, and there has been a meeting. And in that meeting also, India did not take these statements very lightly. No, India did not take these statements lightly. India, in fact, specifically in very stern words, obviously diplomacy है तो एक तरीका होता है बोलने का, but they have specifically rejected these claims that Bangladesh has. Clear? So one of the reasons, one of the reasons is the geopolitical hotspot in recent times. Okay, but what we don't have to forget is that neighborhood has been a very important issue when it comes to India's maritime security. Neighborhood has always been a very important issue. So even we have Pakistan and India shares maritime neighbors also. It's Pakistan is also a maritime neighbor of India along with land boundaries. We also share maritime boundaries with Pakistan. So neighborhood issues. Neighborhood issues are also there. Okay. Yes. Anything else that you can add here? Yes, India has given importance to the Indian Ocean region, and India has taken up number of initiatives. Like you must have read about the Sagar initiative. So the Indian Ocean region and India's aspiration. What is India's aspiration in this region? अगर हम इंडियन ओशन रीजन की बात करते हैं, what is exactly India's aspiration in this region? What is the role that India wants to play? Exactly. India's aspiration is to be what? A net security India wants to be a net security provider. So don't replace this term. ये जो term है ना, net security provider. If you are asked, you will use the term as it is. ठीक है? आप इस term को replace नहीं करोगे. You will use it as it is. ठीक है? हाँ. See, net security provider because this region has been, as we have already seen here, this region is important for in multiple ways. First, it is economically important because it is a resource hub. There are a lot of underwater resources that are there. That's the first thing. Second, this region is also very susceptible to disasters. So there are frequent cyclones, etc. Then that tends to happen in this region. Second reason. Third, this is also this region has been a problem because there is piracy in the Indian Ocean region. Whether it is the western part, or whether you come to the Strait of Malacca in the Southeast Asian region, there is piracy that goes on there. है ना? So there are number of problems that happen, and despite the fact that there are problems, this region is quite important for India, and also the countries which are bordering this region. So whether it is the African countries, whether it is the Southeast Asian countries and whether it is obviously South Asian countries like India, Bangladesh, etc., Myanmar, etc. So what India wants is that rather than other countries indulging in this region, they should consider India to be the net security provider. So India would be responsible in a way for the management of this region. है ना? Whether it is about the trade that goes on in this region. So India would have this no responsibility to ensure that there is fairness of trade. है ना? If there is piracy related incidents, India has to ensure that no Indian Navy, because it's capable, so it will ensure that there is proper law and order in this region, so that economic issues that are there, they do not be, no they do not actually concern other countries. And thirdly, when it comes to disasters, so in that case, India as a country and obviously the Indian armed forces would also be responsible for proper disaster management in this very region. So that is what net security provider term means. Okay? Clear hai? So whenever we talk about what is the importance of this region, so this can be considered as the importance. There can be other things also which you can add, but these are the most important points. And if you ask me, if you are able to present this much, ठीक है, वो काफी अच्छा होगा. ठीक है? Okay. So this is what is the importance of maritime security for India. Now comes what are the challenges? Challenges. So what are the challenges for maritime security? So obviously the challenge will have to start with the fact that there is a very large boundary that India has, and this boundary does not have a it does not have a very simple terrain. It's a very diverse terrain. It's a very diverse terrain. So management of maritime security despite diverse terrain, because there are 9 states, 9 states through which India's maritime border that is there. And we know that there is a physiological difference between the east coast as well as the west coast, है ना? Physiological difference क्या है? You will find that the coast that is there, it is more elevated in comparison to the east coast. So you will find that there are different geographical features of the east coast versus the west coast. You'll find that there are creeks, there are lagoons, etc., etc. So that is what diverse terrain means. And obviously I'm assuming that you know about this, so I'm not going into the details of it. मैंने सिर्फ आपको एक basic idea बताया है that because there is an elevated west coast in comparison to the east coast, so there is a lot of diversity with respect to terrains. ठीक है? Now, in challenges, obviously we will add the 2 points that we have discussed earlier also, which is what? India's neighborhood. And what is the problem with respect to neighborhood? There is a perception of overlapping jurisdiction. क्या कहा मैंने? Perception of overlapping jurisdiction. There is a perception of overlapping jurisdiction, and the example of it is obviously the Sir Creek issue that is there between India and Pakistan. So Pakistan claims the Sir Creek for itself. Right now it is something which is under administration of India, है ना? India proposes a very different way and argument in order to resolve this issue. That is the Thalwag doctrine जो है वो propose करता है India. So दिस इज देयर। सेकेंडली, अभी जो मैंने स्टेटमेंट, हमने बांग्लादेश के इंटरिम गवर्नमेंट के हेड का जो स्टेटमेंट देखा, वेयर ही कंसीडर्स दैट when it comes to the Bay of Bengal region, so this Bay of Bengal region somehow, it's Bangladesh which is responsible for and will be the sole, the sole player in this very region. But India has different aspirations, है ना? India has shifted its focus from from SARC to BIMSTEC, है ना? And BIMSTEC is what? It's about Bay of Bengal region. So India considers BIMSTEC to be very important. India considers Bay of Bengal to be very important. But no, Bangladesh has different opinions about it. So there is a perception of overlapping jurisdiction, and that also is a very important factor. Clear? Now, third point. The string of pearls policy of China. The string of pearls policy of China. So, what is this string of pearls? Yes? हाँ, yes. हाँ, it can, no, it can not only just control the Indian Ocean region, but also strategically encircle India. है ना? That is what the objective is. That if tomorrow there is a strategic issue that arises, and we now understand post 2020 what happened, what happened in the the Galwan Valley, etc. There, that we know that there is always a possibility of any such form of skirmish that may occur between India and China. So there is always a possibility. We cannot deny that. क्योंकि अगर हम कुछ सालों पहले तक चले जाए ना, that is if we go back to the pre-2020 era. So in the pre-2020 era, there were lot of experts who believed that this possibility of India and China facing off each other शायद है ही नहीं. No, that is what the perception was, because even before that there was an issue that happened in Doklam, and when the Doklam issue happened, so without, there was never a, conflict that occurred. Yes, there were problems related to the, China trying to enter Doklam and trying to, construct highways there, construct infrastructure there. India stopped it, but there was no actual conflict that happened. But this became a reality. This conflict between India and China became a reality post 2020. That okay, yes, despite the fact that there is so much interdependence, क्योंकि यही आर्ग्यूमेंट रहा था. ठीक है, आर्ग्यूमेंट क्या था? आर्ग्यूमेंट यही था कि इंडिया और चाइना के बीच में डिस्प्यूट इस वजह से नहीं हो सकता है because India and China are economically very interdependent. So India has trade worth more than $100 billion, and that is rising. Now it's rising, and it's rising exponentially almost every year. So in that case, because India is too important economically, so that is the reason why the possibility of conflict is not there. But that is not anymore the case. Now we have a reality check कि ऐसा नहीं है, and there is likely that China has a very expansionist policy. So it does not matter what economics dictate, but this expansionist policy of China that is there, this expansionist policy of China will not discontinue for any reason. So this string of pearls is a very, very important problem that India is currently facing. ठीक है? हाँ, ये जरूर है कि because of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has come to power, so you will find that suddenly equations have changed, और suddenly जो है अब इंडिया और चाइना जो है वो वापस से अपने रिलेशंस को बेहतर करने की तरफ जा रहे हैं. बट दैट इज अ वेरी लाइकली ओनली अ टेम्पररी फिनोमिना, क्योंकि डोनाल्ड ट्रंप 4 साल रहने वाले. ठीक है, he is going to be there for 4 years and he has to step down post 4 years. Even if there is a Republican president who comes after him, so he is very unlikely to have the same kind of policies like Donald Trump, है ना? So things are very likely to change post 4 years. तो वो string of pearls वो वापस से वो reality हो जाना है. So that is what you have to understand. That's also very very important challenge. Okay. Fourth, we have discussed that there is political instability in maritime boundaries. Political instability in maritime boundaries of India. Then there is also a problem of piracy and marine terrorism. Marine terrorism. Okay, so piracy is very very frequent when it comes to either the Gulf of Eden region or whether it is the Strait of Malacca region. In fact, just going back around 18 to 20 months, there was an incident that happened where Indian Navy was able to foil a piracy attempt which had happened in the Strait of Malacca. ठीक है, तो ये बहुत ही important एक challenge है. Clear? So these are some challenges that are there. There are some other challenges also, but these challenges I will also be talking about. Some of them I will also be talking about later on. Okay? So these are the primary challenges. Okay? Now, any questions? Okay? Is this understood? Dekho, we have, you have to understand is, what you have to understand here is that I am not trying to teach you marine security or maritime security. What we are trying to discuss is that I have when I was looking at this topic, I thought that there are some questions which I should tell you because this is what is expected from you, and you will not get an opportunity to talk about it in so much details, है ना? And you should limit your answers also, क्योंकि देखो, you are going to enter into a domain, security domain, which you are not very much aware of, है ना? You are not very much aware of, and there will definitely be in your board, there will definitely be an individual who will specialize in that area. So if you go into micro discussions, अगर माइक्रो डिस्कशन में चले गए तो वो फिर वहां पर आपको पकड़ लेंगे. But if you don't go into micro discussions and you just focus on macro areas, explaining the macro concepts, that is enough. That would be enough. Okay? Okay. So the question is, what are we likely to do, or what are the steps that we have taken up in order to do what? In order to address to these problems, these challenges. Okay. So you can give a subheading, right steps taken. The steps that have been taken, and the very first step is a three-tier security architecture. A three-tier security architecture. Now, remember that this three-tier security architecture was the reason, it was something which we first implemented in the year 2005. But in 2005, it was implemented only in one state or only in one region, which was the Gujarat region. And this became the architecture, the 3-tier architecture became the focal point post the 2008 incident, है ना? Post what happened in Mumbai, and after that this 3-tier system was now formalized and it has now been implemented. ठीक है? Now what is this 3-tier system or this 3-tier architecture? So what is this 3-tier architecture? See, all the coastal states that are there, for all the coastal states, the very first point or the very first step would be that they are going to create an institution which is called as the State Coastal Police Force. They are going to create what? The State Coastal Police Force. So what would be the responsibility of the State Coastal Police Force? The responsibility of this body would be law and order in coastal areas, so maintenance of law and order in coastal areas that would be there, it would be the responsibility of the coastal police force or coastal marine police force. Clear? Now comes the second structure or the second organization, which is the Indian Coast Guards. Indian Coast Guard, yes. Near the coastal areas. So if it is a coastal area, then in that case, the state police, the marine police has their jurisdiction. And when I say coastal area, I do not mean just the coast. I mean also a bit of offshore installations that are there. So they are responsible for what? They are responsible for maintaining marine police stations. Now, marine police station is not located in the coast. It is located offshore. That means it is located in the sea region. It's located there. They have been given some kind of infrastructure related to, they have been provided some kind of jetties, etc. to to surveil that very region, है ना? So unka limit, they have their limitations with respect to only maintenance of the maintenance of law and order in what we call as 12 nautical miles area, जिसे हम कहते हैं 12 nautical miles area. You all must be knowing about the significance of 12 nautical miles, है ना? So coastal area and 12 nautical miles from the coast, what is that particular region called? Yes, yes, it is called the territorial region of the territorial sea or territorial waters. जो appropriate term है उसे हम कहते हैं territorial waters. That means that water is a part of the territory of the country. It is a part of the territory of that very nation. So no ship can enter into that 12 nautical mile radius without the permission of the authorities, है ना? जैसे हम वीजा लेते हैं ना, किसी और कंट्री में जाने के लिए हमें वीजा चाहिए होता है, और इस तरह के जो शिप्स वगैरह होते हैं वो अगर किसी कंट्री के हार्बर में आना है या उनके लैंड के पास आना है तो उनको भी परमिशन चाहिए होता है. सिमिलरली द शिप्स विच आर कमिंग इन द 12 nautical mile radius, they require what? They will have to have permissions for it. ठीक है? So the responsibility of maintenance of law and order in that 12 nautical mile radius is the responsibility of coastal police. Then comes Indian Coast Guards. And what is the responsibility of Indian Coast Guards? 12 to 200 nautical miles. 12 to 200 nautical miles. That is the responsibility of Indian coast guards, and Indian coast guards act as the second line of defense in India's coastal security architecture. And then comes the third organization, which is, I'll write here, the Indian Navy. The Indian Navy. So 200 nautical miles and beyond. (200 nautical miles and beyond), that becomes the responsibility of what? That becomes the responsibility of Indian Navy. Okay. This is the, no, this is the three-tier security, coastal security architecture that we have been talking about. When was the Indian Coast Guards formed? Yes, 1977. You are absolutely correct. It was the year 1977. So, see, actually, there was an organization that used to used to be in existence before that. Yes, it was the organization called as what? Custom Marine Organization. है ना? There was an organization called as Custom Marine Organization that came into existence, and it came into existence in somewhere around 1974, and it continued till the year 19 no, it continued till the year 1982, है ना? Custom Marine Organization. In 82, it was merged with the Coast Guards. Okay. But Indian Coast Guard came into existence in 1977. It came into existence in 1977. In 1982, there was a realization that there is lot of overlapping jurisdiction between the two organizations, और उसकी वजह से इनको merge कर दिया गया. Actually, देखो, the thing was that what was the responsibility of Custom Marine Organization? So India had a economic policy which did not allow for a lot of trade with other countries, because it was still a inward looking economy. It had not adopted for LPG. So imports were not something which was easily allowed. So what used to happen was that if you are importing goods, then you had to pay a very huge tax or tariffs on it. Very huge. So importers used to maybe, they used to pay 100%, 200% of the value of goods that they were actually importing. Why? Because obviously the policy was to discourage imports. And during this particular period, there was a lot of smuggling that was going on. है ना? आपने पहले की मूवीज में देखा होगा गोल्ड स्मगल होता था. But the thing is that if we look at it today, तो हम ये सोचते हैं ना, गोल्ड क्यों स्मगल होता था? क्योंकि वो तो अब इजिली इंपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, और हम करते भी हैं, बिकॉज इंडिया हैज ह्यूज कंजम्पशन रिलेटेड टू गोल्ड. तो हम तो इजिली इंपोर्ट भी करते हैं उसको. देन इन दैट केस, व्हाई was there smuggling? Because at that time there were this was not a very open concept. So at that time, to import such things, you had to pay a huge tax. In order to avoid the tax, there was a lot of smuggling etc. that used to go on. उसको इस वजह से मरीन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बनाया गया था. एंड इन फाइनली in 82 it was merged with the coast guards. Clear? Okay. So the first step with this respect is what? The first step with this respect is that we have created a 3-tier security architecture. Okay? Now, second, and this 3-tier security architecture has been conceived under one scheme of the government of India. It is called as Coastal Security Scheme. Okay? It is called as coastal security scheme. Moving on. So after this, what are the other things that we have done? Another very important step that we have taken, specifically in the post 2611, post 2611, is that we have come up with an informal surveillance mechanism. What is that informal surveillance mechanism? Can you tell me? What is that informal surveillance mechanism? Hmm? It is called as the Sagar Suraksha Dal. It is for informal surveillance. It comprises of whom? Fishermen. It comprises of fishermen. It comprises of fishermen. So what they do is they are responsible for monitoring the coastal waters and reporting anything which looks out of place. है ना? कोई ऐसी ship which is not supposed to be there but is there will be reported. Even now, even suppose there are trawlers, because fishermen tend to use in India, they don't use big ships, so they use trawlers. So if even there is a trawler which is out of place, because generally people who are fishing in the coastal waters, they belong to certain communities, so they very well know each other. So if there is a trawler which is not supposed to be there, so they tend to fish in some other area, but it is seen in some other place. So these informal mechanisms that are there, they tend to report it, so that no, the marine police that is there or other agencies that are present, they can they can see into scrutinize it, that for what reason this is the case. Why? Because we know what happened in 2611 when Mumbai attack happened. Then what was used? Primarily it was the fishermen boats that were used. Okay, so informal mechanism with respect to supervision has been created. Next, very important, very important system which has been put in place is called as VTMS. What does this VTMS stands for? Vessel Traffic Management System. Vessel Traffic Management System. What is this Vessel Traffic Management System? See, this system has been this system has been established in major as well as some minor ports. Okay? In the major ports as well as in minor ports. Some minor ports, this VTMS system has been established. So what does this VTMS system does? See, every boat, whether it is large, small, trawlers, etc., they get registered there and they are placed with RFID tags. इसमें क्या करते हैं? They place RFID tags. Do you know what's RFID tag? क्या होता है? Exactly. Radio frequency identification tags. So whenever there is, and accordingly they are being monitored. They are being monitored. So even when they are at sea, they are being monitored. And if there is any activity which seems to be suspicious, or any kind of activity which a boat generally does not do, then in that case the system gets alert that information that is there, that information is taken into account for ensuring that there is no such security related challenge that has come up. Okay, so this VTMS system has been established. Okay, then comes the next system, which the next point, which is the national command control communication. National command National Command Control Communication Intelligence Network. Communication Intelligence. Intelligence Network. This has been established with an investment of 450 crores. 450 crores, which means radars, satellites, etc., etc., in order to surveil the coastal region. In border management, do you know about something called as comprehensive integrated border management system? What is it? For management of which borders? It is two borders, India Pak and India Bangladesh. These are, which in case of the comprehensive integrated border management system, that's what we call it for Indo Pak border. But when it comes to the Bangladesh border, we call it as bold QIT, quick response, QRT, sorry, quick response team, bold, BOLD QRT, that has been created for Bangladesh borders. Clear? Bold QRT and this. Now, what is the ingredients of that system? If we look at the comprehensive integrated border management system, what are the ingredients there? How is that going to be done? Technology, yes. What kind of technology are we talking about? Exactly, that is one component of it. Is there any other component? Yes, smart fencing, that would be there. Anything else? There is one more component to it. No, it's the command and control center. So there are three important things there. First is making the border areas technology equipped. That means ensuring that there is presence of uh, smart fences. When I say smart fences, what do I mean? There are radars there. There are radars there. There is a satellite which is dedicated for monitoring that very region. This is what is meant by smart fences. है ना? So technology presence as well as creation of smart fences, and then a command and control center. A command and control center will do what? It will gather all information. 24 into surveillance, no, 24 into 7 surveillance will go on. And if there is any kind of attempt for trying to illegally cross the border or something like that, that will be flagged and appropriate steps would be taken. So somehow, when we talk about the National Command, Control and Communication Intelligence Network, it is with the same objective. It's what? It's with the same objective. That is, we are trying to create, in a way, smart fences. For what? For India's maritime borders. Obviously, 7,500 kilometers cannot be fenced. है ना? And it will not be fenced because there are other things at stake also. है ना? There are other things that are also at stake. So this cannot be fenced. So in that case, what we need to do is we need to create smart fences. And this is what the objective here is. Clear? Okay. So this is the other mechanism. Next, there is also, you can write this down, next point. The Central Industrial Security Force, CISF, has been given the responsibility, has been given the responsibility of of maintaining security for offshore assets for India, offshore assets for India, full stop. So whatever offshore assets that are there, now the responsibility is with the CISF. Now they are the ones who are responsible for maintaining security in the region. Okay. Next point, add the BSF. The BSF has created 8 floating border outposts. 8 floating border outposts in the Gujarat and West Bengal region, in the Gujarat and West Bengal region, to check illegal migration, trafficking and piracy. Trafficking and piracy. Full stop. Okay. So what has been done? Outpost, border outposts. That, what does that mean? That would mean that in the maritime region near Gujarat and near West Bengal. Now we are talking about what? Which organization are we talking about? BSF. Now, what is the responsibility of BSF? What does BSF do? India, Pakistan border. That means when it was created. When was BSF created? 1965. So we have to know, we know that it was created in the year 1965, which means at that time we are talking about East as well as West Pakistan. So BSF was created for specifically the Indo-Pak borders. But later on, because now no, East Pakistan later on became Bangladesh, so it's also right now, no, it has the responsibility to man this borders as well. Okay. And so whether it is our Bangladesh or our maritime borders with Bangladesh or our maritime borders with Gujarat, they are with Pakistan, they are primarily done what? They are primarily manned by BSF. And now BSF has created outposts also to check if suppose there is any form of illegal migration that is going on or trafficking, because trafficking एक बहुत बड़ा issue है. Now, in case of India, Bangladesh, trafficking is such a big issue that the kind of things which comes from Bangladesh to India and it is smuggled from either Bangladesh to India or from India to Bangladesh. It is estimated that India loses money, which is almost of 10,000 crores. So it's not a small problem. It's a very huge problem. What has also been seen in this region is that recently there have been some cases in which pirates are trying to do what? They are trying to hijack and capture fishermen, which, if they find something which is worth in their ships or something like that, so they do what? They rob them. So piracy is there. And if they do not find anything like that, so they tend to do what? They tend to ask the concerned government, like if it is India, So they will ask the government to pay some amount of money in order to secure the release of fishermen. So this is also a problem that has been seen in this region. In order to combat that, you have the border outposts. Clear? Okay. So these are the, no, yes, one more point. Please write this down. Very important. In 2017, a maritime theater command, a maritime theater command with participation of Navy, Indian Navy, Army and Air, Indian Navy, Army, Air Force and Coast Guards and Coast Guards has been conceived, has been conceived. Okay? So these are the steps that have been specifically taken post 2611. The security architecture of India, specifically maritime security architecture of India, has completely been redrawn post the 2611. Okay? Now, what we have to still find, now what we still find is that there are still some existing loopholes. Like, if we talk about the funding pattern, the financing pattern. So we have a defense budget which is very considerable. है ना? If you compare developing countries and if you look at the defense budget of developing countries, you will find that India has one of the largest defense budgets. It would be next only to, I think, China. है ना? So our defense, their defense budget is maybe, no, it may be some millions of dollars plus India. Otherwise, no developing country spends so much money in terms of its defense. Obviously, India spends it because we have certain requirements. The problem here is that 85% of this defense budget that is there, it is for Indian Army. 85% of this budget. That means the remaining 15% that is there, only that is what the Air Force and the other organizations like the Indian Navy or the Coast Guard has to share. So there is a problem with respect to funding of these very organizations. That is one. Second, what is another problem? Another problem is with respect to a recent report which was released by the Intelligence Bureau. And what does the Intelligence Bureau say in that report? So, Intelligence Bureau, they surveyed approximately 203 minor ports in India to look at now how many of these ports that are there, they are capable of defending themselves if suppose there is any kind of an emergency requirement. So 203 माइनर पोर्ट्स है ना. इंडिया में कितने मेजर पोर्ट्स हैं? There are 13 major ports that are there. It used to be 12. There has been a recent addition. When I say recent, a few years ago, there was a addition. I think it was with respect to where was it added? 13th. Yes. Exactly. It was the Andaman and Nicobar Islands where it was added. Anyways, देख लेना वो, ठीक है? You check that. So, सिर्फ 13 major airports, ports are there. The remaining ports that are there, they are called minor ports. And out of the 203 minor ports that Intelligence Bureau scrutinized, out of which they found that more than 80% of them are defenseless. They cannot defend themselves. More than 80% of them. In fact, in 75 of the 203, 75 of the 203 ports, there was no security feature at all. There was no security feature at all. In fact, 45 of the ports were non-functional. "45 of these that are there, they were non-functional." So you can understand that yes, there have been some changes that we have tried, but if you compare it to the requirements, to the changes that we have made, we are still lagging behind. ठीक है? और इसका हमें एक एक एम्पेरिकल एविडेंस भी नजर आया। कहां पर? when we were conducting an exercise called as sea vigil, जानते हो ना sea vigil क्या है? Yes, it's an exercise in order to check our preparedness with respect to maritime defense. So when this exercise was conducted in the year 2019, in that case, out of the three out of the three security levels, the attack that took place, just in order to see that they were able to penetrate two of the levels. ठीक है? यानी पेरीमीटर बनाया जाता है, 3 पैरामीटर है हमारे सिक्योरिटी के, 3 पैरामीटर्स हैं, और उस 3 पैरामीटर में 2 of them were they were broken by the attacking organization in this very exercise. So it shows that India, when it comes to specifically when it comes to maritime security, there is an issue that is there. Clear? Okay. So this is now, if you do not know about sea vigil, the exercise sea vigil, please read about it. ठीक है? Please read about that. On an average, in total, there are approximately, India has, I think, 300 plus minor ports. 300 plus. Out of which, in 203 of them, they conducted this exercise to check preparedness. Okay, which means if even if we are considering suppose 300, so almost more than two-third of the ports, they scrutinized in order to see their preparedness, and out of that, in more than 80% they found that these were completely defenseless. ठीक है? Okay. तो इसके बाद हाँ, exactly. This was something which initially was conceived only for Gujarat in 2005, but post the 9/11 attack, now it has been extended for the whole of the country. ठीक है? यानी जो जितने भी हमारे सिक्योरिटी जितने भी हमारे मैरीटाइम बाउंड्रीज वाले स्टेट है, 9 of them, for all of them this has been extended. See, now that is a problem here as well, because when it comes to marine security and state police is the domain of state government. It's not something which is the domain of the central government, which means that it is up to the states. So some states have not yet created that. कुछ states है जिन्होंने नहीं create किया है. Like if you if you look at certain states like the state of West Bengal, it has not done anything in this regard. It has not done anything in this regard. अभी भी आपने कुछ statement भी सुना होगा जो हमारे होम मिनिस्टर का था in the parliament specifically with respect to state of West Bengal. So he had made a statement in the parliament. He said that when it comes to the state of West Bengal, uh, we are trying to create fences to block the illegal migration coming from Bangladesh. And in order to do that, we need to acquire land for which the permission needs to be given by the state government. But they are not willing to do that and they are delaying the process. ये बात उन्होंने हमारे होम मिनिस्टर ने कही थी. तो कहीं ना कहीं स्टेट ऑफ वेस्ट बंगाल के साथ इश्यूज हैं. State of Kerala has established the marine police, but they have not properly funded it. Then there are infrastructural and logistic issues with the state police, है ना? But again, I don't think that they will get into so much details. इसीलिए हम यहाँ तक discuss कर रहे हैं. Clear? Is it understood? Now, remember that there are some very important points that we have discussed here. Starting with this slide itself, when we talked about this idea, clear? And when we talked about the economic importance of the Indian Ocean region, it was a very important thing. You have to know, ensure that you are able to integrate that in your answer. Along with it, the steps taken part, which includes all the major steps that have been taken post 2611, you have to, if they are asked, you have to include that in your answer. Okay? Okay. Now, there is one more topic that I have to talk about, which is the mandate of security forces, which means how many organizations exist in India and what exactly is the responsibility that they perform. Okay, so this is a bit factual, or no, this is a bit factual. So I will dictate some of these ideas. Okay, so please write this down. So how many paramilitary forces exists in India, or no, the central police forces that are there? How many central police forces are there in India? Yes, there are 7. Which organizations are we talking about? बताओ. यहाँ Assam Rifles, ठीक है. BSF, CISF, ITBP, SSB, CRPF, and NSG. ठीक है, NSG is also there. वैसे तो देखो, it's there. NSG is an organization which is formed out of combination of other organizations. But anyways, ठीक है, वैसे तो देखो rapid action force भी होता है, but we don't consider them to be a separate organization. Okay, so some important ones. What are those important organizations? When was it formed? And what is their responsibility? Particularly responsibility, because I don't expect a question very factual. पूछा जा सकता है, ऐसा मैं नहीं कहूंगा कि नहीं पूछा जा सकता है, कि आपसे ये नहीं पूछेंगे कि when was CRPF formed. I don't think that they will not ask you that. But primarily what they will ask you is what is its responsibility. So you will be asked about different organizations and their responsibility. Okay, so that is one part which I'll be dictating for every organization in 2 sentences. Okay, so please write that. हाँ. NCC वगैरह नहीं ऐड कर सकते हो. They have included NSG and they have also included SPG. तो वो include किया है उन्होंने. हाँ, Assam Rifles is a paramilitary force. Yes, see, in the 3 organizations that are there, Indian Coast Guard is considered to be technically a paramilitary force, but it is described as the 4th armed force in India. इंडियन कोस्ट गार्ड्स को 4th आर्म्ड फोर्सेस बोला जाता है इंडिया में. तो वी डोंट कंसीडर इट टू बी अ पैरामिलिट्री फोर्स. टेक्निकली है, बट इट इज नॉट समथिंग विच वी कंसीडर, क्योंकि उनको 4th, as I said, it is described as the 4th नो आर्म्ड फोर्स ऑफ इंडिया, ठीक है। देखो यू कैन कॉल इट 8, ठीक है, आप बोल सकते हो कि 8 फोर्सेस हैं ऐसा टेक्निकली, क्योंकि वो सही है, 8 फोर्सेस दैट इज दैट टेक्निकली दैट इज क्या क्या गवर्नमेंट डॉक्यूमेंट्स में यस वो यूज करते हैं टर्म्स, जैसे सी व्हेन इट कम्स टू कोस्ट गार्ड्स आर वेरी मच no looked at even in government documents as armed forces. They are not considered to be paramilitary forces, but technically वो paramilitary force है, क्योंकि जहां तक हम नो स्पेसिफिक फोर्सेस की बात करते तो वो 3 ही होते हैं, आर्मी, एयरफोर्स एंड नेवी। तो इसके अलावा कोई भी फोर्स है वो पैरामिलिट्री ही है, दे आर नॉट मिलिट्री, दे आर पैरामिलिट्री फोर्स। बट फॉर कोस्ट गार्ड वी डिस्क्राइब इट एज द फोर्थ आर्म्ड फोर्सेस इन इंडिया, ठीक है। कमिटी नहीं, उन्होंने बुक की बात की है, हाँ उन्होंने कमिटी की बात नहीं की, इट्स अ बुक दैट हैज बीन रिटन, ऑथर अशोक, क्या नाम था बताया आपने, अशोक कुमार कुछ ऑथर ऑथर है। एक्चुअली द टर्म, हाँ, दिस सेंट्रल आर्म्ड पुलिस फोर्स टर्म वाज इंट्रोड्यूस पोस्ट 2011, बिफोर 2011 इट वाज कॉल्ड एज पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस, ठीक है। ये आर्म्ड नो पुलिस फोर्स वाला कॉन्सेप्ट है, ये टर्मिनोलॉजी लेटर आई है 2011 के बाद, ठीक है। नॉर्मल यूसेज में हम पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस ही बोलते हैं, वी कॉल इट एज पैरामिलिट्री। I'm going to tell you that, ठीक है, I'm exactly going to tell you what they are, because the difference between them is with respect to the responsibilities that they have, ठीक है। तो वो आपको लिख लेना है, ठीक है, प्लीज राइट दिस डाउन। राइट द फर्स्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, the first organization is the BSF, Border Security Force. It was established in 1st December 1965, देख लो, it was established in 1965. It is headed by a senior IPS officer, headed by a senior IPS officer, works under the control of Ministry of Home Affairs, works under the control of Ministry of Home Affairs. It was created post the 1965 war with Pakistan, 1965 war with Pakistan, and is responsible for protection of international borders with Pakistan and Bangladesh, Pakistan and Bangladesh, okay। नाउ प्राइमरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ये है बीएसएफ की, लेकिन बीएसएफ व्हेन वी से मैनिंग द बॉर्डर्स of India and Bangladesh borders that are there, or India and Pakistan borders that are there, they perform number of activities in order to do this. Like, as I said, smuggling is a very, very important problem. So they do what? They have two specific responsibilities here. First, they coordinate with intelligence agencies. तो अगर इस तरह का कोई इंफॉर्मेशन इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज के पास है, तो उनके साथ कोऑर्डिनेट करके स्मगलिंग एज वेल एज इलीगल माइग्रेशन, नो, इन सारी चीजों को रोकना भी इनका काम है, दैट इज ऑल्सो देयर वर्क। बट द आइडिया इज दैट दे आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर मैनिंग द बॉर्डर्स दैट इज देयर बिटवीन इंडिया पाकिस्तान एंड इंडिया बांग्लादेश, ठीक है। 1965 वॉर के बाद इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को क्रिएट किया गया। इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने ड्यूरिंग द India Pak 1971 war, which led to creation of Bangladesh. So this organization was very much responsible for training the Mukti Bahinis, जो उनके armed militia थे, they were trained by the BSF. Okay. Anyways, second organization, CRPF. Yes, one more thing you will add. Don't write it. आप घर पे जाकर ये खुद देखोगे और ऐड कर लोगे. Who is the recent DG? जो डायरेक्टर जनरल है वो कौन है? प्लीज ऐड दैट. रिमेंबर, generally for all such armed forces, the director general is always an IPS officer, है ना, a very senior IPS officer. ठीक है, तो वो नाम ऐड कर लेना. CRPF. When was CRPF created? It was 39. It was 39. It was created as Crown Representative Police, later on renamed. It was renamed as Central Reserve Police Force. Okay. What is the responsibility that it has? Yes. This is the main, write this down. CRPF is responsible for assisting the states, is responsible for assisting the states and the UTs for enforcing internal security and anti-insurgency operations. Anti-insurgency operations. Full stop. ठीक है. So whether it is a Naxal infected area, or whether it is the northeastern states, where you will find that those states which have problems related to such things, even Jammu and Kashmir, you'll find that their CRPF is highly, no, they are stationed there, they are present there. Okay, because this is the most important organization for internal security. Third, the third organization is ITBP, Indo-Tibetan Border Police. When did it come into existence? 1962. Obviously it was in the context of the Sino-India War, or the India-China War. Okay, so please write this down. It was formed in 1962. 1962, and is responsible for the Indo-China borders. Indo-China borders. So whether it is the Ladakh region, where we have what is called as the LAC, whether it is about the LAC in this region, or for that matter whether it is the Arunachal region, which again where where we share borders with that of China. So the deployment that is there, that deployment is of the ITBP, है ना. But this was its primary responsibility. This is its primary responsibility post 1962. लेकिन इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को अलग तरीके से भी यूज किया गया, लाइक प्रोवाइडिंग VIP security to VIP, etc., etc. However, the government has recently changed that policies, and the government has done away with this idea that ITBP officers would not be responsible. Rather, the responsibility would be on other organizations, ITBP primarily for the Indo-Tibetan region. Okay? Next organization, CISF. It provides security to industrial establishments. Was established in the year 1969. Was established in the year 1969. However, they have also been used. They have also been used for anti-Naxal operations. Anti-Naxal operations. ठीक है, एंटी नक्सल ऑपरेशंस में भी यूज किया गया है इनको, बट दे आर नॉट primarily responsible for it. Primary responsibility is what? The industrial establishments, managing industrial establishments. ठीक है, अगर आपको CISF मिलता है, that is considered to be the best in terms of, you know, uh, not in terms of exactly career, I would say, but in terms of the least risk that is there. So it is associated with these, no, it's associated with CISF. Okay, you will generally be posted in airports and, you know, some very large industrial establishments that are there. Okay, next organization, SSB. SSB, that is the Sahastra Seema Bal. It was established in 1963. It was established in 1963 and is responsible for management of international borders with Nepal and Bhutan. International borders with Nepal and Bhutan. It was previously called Special Services Bureau. It was previously called Special Services Bureau. Special Services Bureau. ठीक है? Actually, when this organization was established, it had only the responsibility to manage India-Nepal borders. This addition, no, there has been an addition to its responsibility with respect to India-Bhutan borders post 2004. ठीक है? Post 2004. Yes. For intelligence work, it was there, but intelligence, no, it still has intelligence work itself. Like today also, the SSB that is there, SSB is responsible for coordinating with organizations like RAW. Even today it does that, है ना? आज भी ये काम वो करते हैं. देखो 2004 में क्या हुआ? 2004 was a very important year for Indo-Bhutan relations, because in 2004 India renegotiated a friendship treaty with Bhutan. अगर आपको पता है तो 1950s 1960s में अगर हम वापस चले जाते हैं, तो that was the time when India had a very different kind of relations with Bhutan. India was considered to be a protector state of Bhutan, है ना? And India represented Bhutan in the UN also. In 2004, India renegotiated a treaty. India ने कहा कि we will not be taking up this role anymore. That means it allowed for more sovereignty with to Bhutan. That okay, now it is your responsibility. And when it comes to it gave Bhutan more sovereignty, and that redefinition meant that now there would be a separate arrangement that requires to be taken up when it comes to the borders of India and Bhutan. And that is when SSB was extended with this very duty. ठीक है? क्योंकि भूटान और इंडिया के बीच में देखो ऐसे, if you look at government to government relations, there is absolutely no problem, है ना? In fact, if you must, in the last year itself, when the Bhutanese Prime Minister was addressing the United Nations, so he specifically thanked India because Bhutan is today now no more considered as a part of the LDC, least developed countries. So they have upgraded Bhutan. Bhutan is no more the least developed country. So the the Prime Minister of Bhutan in the on the platform of UN thanked India that it is because of India. He said that it's because of a lot of countries, but one of the most important countries is India. तो हमने हमारा भूटान के साथ बहुत अच्छा रिलेशंस है, but there is a problem there. The problem is with respect to the no with respect to smuggling of flora and fauna. यानी जो important trees होते हैं उनका स्मगलिंग होता है. Important, some very important ecological that is there, they are smuggled. And animals, specifically when it comes to animal skin etc that is there, they are smuggled. तो उन सारी चीजों को स्मगलिंग स्पेसिफिकली एंड कैनबिस है ना उसे रोकने के लिए they have a very important role to play. Plus Bhutan is very closely located to, as he very rightly said, China, है ना. If you look at the map you will find that there is a very very small difference that is there when it comes to China, Bhutan and India. So that that makes it a further more important state for India. Clear? Okay. Let's move on. Next organization is what? The NSG, National Security Guards. What is the NSG? What is its responsibility? Counter terrorism. Clear? So write this down. It is a special force set up in 1984, provided with a statutory status in 1986 and is primarily responsible for counter terrorism. Responsible for counter terrorism. Counter terrorism. ठीक है. NSG Act of 1986. There was a special act called as the NSG Act of 1986. Okay. So we have looked at these organizations. Next comes Assam Rifles. Give a subheading, right? Assam Rifles. So when was it established? Yes, 1835. And what is the responsibility of Assam Rifles? Yes, it is you can write this. It is responsible for border security, counter insurgency in the northeastern states. It has been relocated under the Ministry of Home Affairs since 1965, before which it worked under the Ministry of External Affairs. Ministry of External Affairs. So this is a important point that you should know, that it was previously working under the Ministry of External Affairs. Now it is working under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Clear? Now, in addition to this, what you need to do here is two things you will add. One, DG. Remember the name of DG. देखो, your UPSC interviews that are there, most of the times your interviews tend to do what? It tends to pass through two stages. Okay, two phases more appropriately. First phase is when the board that will be there, they will ensure that you are comfortable, and they will ask, no, they will ask you general information, and they will make you feel comfortable. And then it may so happen that they even test you under stress, है ना? और सबसे ज्यादा स्ट्रेस कब होता है? जब हम कुछ ऐसे इंफॉर्मेशन जो कि काफी आसान होता है और वो हम नहीं बता पाते हैं, है ना? तो इन दैट केस इट्स वेरी लाइकली दैट देन यू आर आस्क्ड सम फैक्चुअल क्वेश्चंस, and in that case the facts that will be asked, it would be with respect to what? It would be with respect to this very idea, that is, maybe you are asked a question on what does a force do, or when was it established, who is the DG, what is its motto. तो ये भी ऐड कर लेना कि मोटो क्या है हर, every force, what is its motto, you have to add that, well, no, that as well. So these things are factual, but you have to remember it. ठीक है? Remember, you will have the same board. There is no difference between the board that is there for your UPSC civil services or your UPSC this examination. The same board will be there. So they may, this is exactly the reason why we have dealt with this topic in a bit of details, because when, they also presume that most of you are also preparing for civil services, है ना? They know that. They know that most of you are preparing for civil services, so they are also expecting a higher standard, है ना? तो उस चीज को आपको ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा while you are preparing for your interviews. Don't think that this is just an interview of an armed force or assistant commandant और इस तरह की चीजें हैं. That's not necessarily the case. ये भी ध्यान रखना कि CRPF and other organizations that are there, they tend to work in lot of organizations which are directly not a part of CRPF. Like, I have a very close friend of mine who is, who had qualified the same examination that you are appearing for, and he's right now working for the NIA, है ना? He's working for the NIA. So you tend to go on deputations as well to such organizations. इसीलिए in extension to this, also try and prepare organizations like NIA, etc. What they tend to do, or these ideas that are there. Okay. So this is primarily the two topics that I was supposed to discuss. I have already talked about them. If you have any questions, okay, you can ask me. I have appeared for UPSC interviews multiple times. Okay, so if you have any general queries also related to interviews, you can ask me. There is no problem. कुछ पूछना है? See, you will have to support, you will have to support the view of specialization, है ना? The view of specialization, like if we talk about suppose organizations like the CRPF. अब देखो, if you just go back a few years, that is pre 2015 era. तो pre 2015 में क्या था? There was one very important problem that was there with respect to tackling of Naxalism, which was, the problem was that those Naxal areas which were in the in the Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha region that is there. Now those areas, in those areas, the head of the district in terms of maintenance of law and order was an IPS officer by default. ठीक है? और उसकी वजह से जो एंटी नक्सल ऑपरेशंस होते थे उसमें वो उतने अच्छे से पार्टिसिपेट नहीं कर पाते थे। उसका रीजन था कि उनके पास स्पेशलाइजेशन और जंगल वॉरफेयर का कोई नॉलेज नहीं होता था, है ना। जंगल वॉरफेयर इज अ वेरी सेपरेट आइडिया, विच इज व्हाट इज द टेक्निक, द गुरिल्ला वॉरफेयर जिसे हम कहते हैं, इज द टेक्निक विच हैज बीन अडॉप्टेड बाय द नक्सल्स। So there was a change that was made, and no, there was a specific position that was created which was called as superintendent of police operations इस एरिया में। और वहां पर असिस्टेंट कमांडेंट जो होते थे या जो डेप्यूटी कमांडेंट्स होते थे, उन इंडिविजुअल्स को वहां उस पोजीशन पर रखा गया, एंड दैट पेड आउट, है ना। क्यों? क्योंकि उनके पास एक्सपीरियंस है, स्पेशलाइजेशन है, दे नो अबाउट दीज थिंग्स लाइक जंगल वॉरफेयर। जैसे सीआरपीएफ में अगर यू गेट सेलेक्टेड इनटू सीआरपीएफ तो आपको जंगल वॉरफेयर की पूरी ट्रेनिंग स्पेशलाइज दी जाती है। तो देर इज अ लॉट ऑफ स्पेशलाइजेशन दैट कम्स व्हेन यू आर अ पार्ट ऑफ सच ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, है ना। तो आप कह सकते हो, बिल्कुल आप इस बात को सपोर्ट कर सकते हो कि टुडे इज एन एरा ऑफ स्पेशलाइजेशन, एंड इन एन एरा ऑफ स्पेशलाइजेशन because people belonging to this background are trained into such problems, and therefore they if they are in decision making positions, they can bring about more efficiency and effectiveness. So you will always support specialization. There is nothing wrong with that idea. ठीक है, ऐसा मत सोचना कि यू आर इन एनी वे नो somehow demeaning the position of an IPS. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है, because for the rest of the areas, no, it's always an IPS officer who heads the district, but that's not the case, no, because things are not very normal in such areas. So in that case there are some extraordinary steps which can be taken, and one of them is no positioning specialist in those positions. क्या? नहीं नहीं, ये गवर्नमेंट को नहीं, गवर्नमेंट के डिसीजन को चैलेंज नहीं कर रहे हो आप। यू आर जस्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट व्हाट पॉलिसी चेंज कुड बी ब्रॉट इन टू ब्रिंग अबाउट मोर इफेक्टिवनेस। यू आर नॉट चैलेंजिंग द गवर्नमेंट। आप ये नहीं कह रहे हो कि नहीं गवर्नमेंट को ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए, आप ये कह रहे हो कि आपका ओपिनियन क्या है कि इसे बेस्ट बेहतर तरीके से टैकल कैसे किया जा सकता है ना। सो देर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग विथ हैविंग एन ओपिनियन एंड प्रेजेंटिंग योर आइडियाज। यू हैव टू बी वेरी केयरफुल अबाउट व्हेन यू आर स्टेपिंग दैट लाइन। जब आप ऐसा कुछ बोल रहे हो ना, और अगर वहां से कोई ऐसा इंडिविजुअल है जो आपके इस आइडिया को कुछ चैलेंज कर रहा है या कुछ इस तरह की चीजें, डिफेंड योर सेल्फ, बट डोंट क्रॉस दैट लाइन। आप ये मत कहना कि नहीं सर आप गलत हो। आप ये कहना, इस तरीके से कहना कि सर व्हाट यू आर सेइंग इज नो इज वेरी करेक्ट, and this is what my opinion is, because I always consider specialization could be a better way of resolving such problems. बस this maintain your stand, but don't cross that line. वो ठीक रहेगा। there is no problem with that, है ना। और anything else? देखो, prepare, see, interviews are very important. Interviews are very important for multiple reasons, because interviews tend to do what? Interviews, अगर आपने अच्छा इंटरव्यू दिया है ना, that is not going to just help you get across this line, but it also builds your confidence, which gets added to any other examination that you appear for. जैसे most of you are preparing for civil services, so if you give a better interview right now, this is going to be very helpful when you appear for your civil services interviews, because you will find things to be very common, है ना। अदरवाइज क्या होता है, सिविल सर्विसेज के इंटरव्यू में थोड़ा डॉन्टिंग टास्क होता है। आप वहां पर जाके बैठे हो, सडनली देर आर 4-5 इंडिविजुअल्स हु आर देयर, एंड स्टेक्स थोड़ा हायर हो जाता है। हमारे दिमाग में ऐसा रहता है कि स्टेक थोड़ा हायर है, तो वी टेंड टू प्रेशराइज आवर सेल्स अ लॉट। इसीलिए इंटरव्यू को उस तरह से रहो एंड प्रैक्टिस करो। नो, इंटरव्यू इज अबाउट प्रैक्टिस, लाइक इट्स नॉट, नो, वी जनरली टेंड टू टॉक naturally in Hindi, except, no, I'm not saying all of you, but generally ऐसा होता है। So what you need to do is you need to practice this. You need to practice this so that when you are appearing there, what will happen is that you will not consider that, no, you will not consider that this is something which is out of place, है ना। It is not a very difficult job, so you should be practicing that. Sit and frame your questions, है ना. There should be always a chart that you prepare. That no, visualize your interview. When you sit down, what will be the first question that you expect? If you answer this question in this manner, what are the follow-up questions that you expect? If you are no if no that follow-up questions, how will you answer it? Then if you are asked about this very topic, what are the questions that you expect? Ask yourself that question and try and answer it in a very formal setting. Try and answer it. If you can, if you can ask for someone's help who is there and who is asking these questions for you, it's good enough. Otherwise, do it by yourself. But do it definitely. ये मत सोच के जाना कि वहां पर you will perform directly there. Don't do that. वहां पर फिर बहुत गलतियां करोगे. If you practice it, your mistakes will minimize. You will commit mistake. वहां पर भी गलतियां करोगे. कोई ऐसा नहीं होगा कि flawless हर चीज जाएगी. ऐसा नहीं होता है. So there will be problems, but you will commit less mistakes in comparison to if you go unprepared there or if you have not practiced and you go there. है ना? So in that case, do that. Do that. Ensure that you are, when you are prepared for the questions, at least maximum of the questions what you are thinking would be the same questions that would be asked. Maximum वैसा ही रहेगा. एक दो क्वेश्चन होते हैं जो बिल्कुल अलग या बिल्कुल आउटस्टैंडिंग क्वेश्चंस रहेंगे, बट अदरवाइज योर इंटरव्यू वुड बी एग्जैक्टली व्हाट यू हैव प्रीवियसली विजुअलाइज्ड. है ना? तो इसीलिए जितना द मोर यू प्रिपेयर, द मोर यू speak, the more you get that confidence, the better you are going to perform there. ठीक है? Okay, that's it. Thank you everyone. Thank you.